program. So today's topic in lieu of January is goal setting and making time for ourselves, which is very, very important. So the overview is we're going to review what is your reasoning for wanting to make changes, what is an intrinsic versus an extrinsic goal and why both are important and how they differ. Yo-yo dieting and its, maybe pros and cons. Smart goals, what they are and how to set them, and making time for ourselves and these goals, as well as information about food logging. Now, next week, we're going to have a part 2 to this that's more focused on actual nutritional changes and dieting information on the Mediterranean diet. But it's really important to have a foundation of making changes before you make the change. It sounds funny, but you're going to understand why after the presentation. So let's get started. So when we say what is your why, there's a lot of different reasons why someone would want to make a change. And this isn't just in the field of nutrition or health. It's, if you're unhappy with something, you want to make a change. Or if you're seeking to change something, why do you want it? Why is it important to you? So let's say somebody would want to, in our case, oftentimes people come to us for weight loss. Now, what does weight loss mean? It can mean, improving their breathing ability. It can mean sleeping better, not having sleep apnea anymore. But maybe they want to improve their joint pain. Maybe it's not about the weight in this case. Maybe it's about eating anti-inflammatory foods or being able to run around with your grandchildren, walk your daughter down the aisle, not have to go on insulin if you're diabetic. There's a lot of different reasons. So when people come to us and they want to make changes, we will say, what is your motivation? What is driving you? Because without a true motivation, you oftentimes won't have the dedication to make these changes long term. So, and that we'll go into that in a minute. It's really the difference between intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic is very surface, meaning it's still important for certain things. An example of an extrinsic motivation would be I want to look good for a wedding next month, or my wife wants me to lose weight, so that's why I'm here. It doesn't really come from within, it comes from external forces. And while those can be motivating, they don't really usually last long term. So it's often driven through competition, fear of failure, a reward of some sort. Like if I achieve my 20-pound weight goal, I can then go back to eating fast food. Punishment, it comes from a place of feeling negative about our body. And then for others, like I said, it's important to have motivation by your family, but being able to stay with them long time, not because they are forcing you to do something. Listen, at the end of the day, we believe in autonomy. That's the step 1 here. It has to come from a place of like you wanting to actually do it. So this example is they like to run and it makes them feel good and they want to keep learning how they can improve. That's an intrinsic motivator of wanting to improve their stamina through running because they genuinely enjoy it. So we're going to talk about making goals. You want to make goals that you actually can see yourself achieving because you can genuinely see it as being part of your life. So a lot of these yo-yo diets, which actually makes sense, they often start with, I want to lose weight because I'm overweight and I want to restrict dieting. I'm going to cut out all my carbs. We're going to cut out all our favorite foods. And we do achieve short-term success, but in that time frame, we are feeling deprived, maybe feeling left out, feeling very on a diet, very much on very strict program, which there is a time and a place for, don't get me wrong, guys, but it often does lead to cravings coming in again. A holiday comes, a birthday comes, a vacation comes, a funeral comes, COVID comes, something happens that you can't sustain that any longer because it is so restrictive. And then what happens? We return to our old ways and then we're back to square one. And this cycle is exhausting, guys. We've all been here. It's very, very exhausting. And the hardest part is getting started. So make it easier on yourself by not being so restrictive and thinking of your nutrition more like a dimmer, right? Those fancy houses that have the dimmer light switches. It's more of a spectrum, right? No good, no bad, no on or off. On a diet means that eventually you're going to be off the diet. So that's not good. We want it to be more of a spectrum, a light switch on and off. So this is what we mean when we're saying to be more approachable with your plan and more realistic. So why we want to say no to the yo-yo, back to this cycle. It is a vicious cycle. And the dieting mindset is when we do have a blatant dissatisfaction for our natural body physique, and it can lead us to want to change it. And it's okay to want to change. However, by doing a very restrictive diet, let's say like Optavia, or a very strict fasting program, or something where you very specifically need to follow something, it can actually increase your appetite because you're chronically under eating, which then lowers your BMR. So it can actually lead to more weight gain over time, a higher body fat percentage, definite loss of muscle, which will then lead to a lower metabolism, as well as an actual increased risk for different diseases. And self-doubt, right? You feel like a failure if it didn't work. But listen, if diets worked, we would only need one of them, right? So yes, when I hint at the Mediterranean diet, I'm not saying it's a diet. It's more like I know it's cheesy, but lifestyle. But you're going to have to just be open to what we're trying to say. So next is slow and steady wins the race. So instead of being a yo-yo dieter, you would want to look something more like this, because we usually expect weight loss to look like this, right? Our starting weight and then our finishing weight. And then we think it's predictable with no plateaus, perfectly linear, and progress every day. Well, that's not actually the case. It's very common for things to be unpredictable. It's normal to have occasional stalls, sporadic increases, and then big drops. And so you still do get to the same place as where you started, but it's not linear. And progress is not linear, or excuse me, yeah, I mean, it's really not. It has its ups and downs. But I tell people that perfection is the opposite of progress, because if you're expecting perfection, you're setting yourself up for failure. Eating is a spectrum, and no one's perfect, nor should they be. And there's no one perfect way to eat, but our goal is to help you find something that's realistic for you. And if you're watching this and you want to set something up with us to learn more about where you need to begin, we're still available for consults. So don't hesitate to reach out. So how do we say no to the yo-yo? Well, the first step would be to not do everything at once. If you have certain habits that you want to change, like exercise, maybe you're smoking, maybe you are drinking too much, maybe you are drinking soda, there's so many different things that we feel like we would benefit from changing. Start with no more than 3 changes, 1 to 3. Meaning maybe get more sleep, go to the gym twice a week, and drink less soda. Those would be 3 things that would be enough for 1 month. And until those changes become habits, don't add anything else. Build that confidence in yourself and your ability to make those changes, and then begin to stack on more changes over time. That's going to allow it to truly become a habit versus a short-term thing. So, oh, I'm drinking water this week, but then next week I forget. No. I want it to become habit, and it does take anywhere from 1 to 3 months for something to truly become habitual. And we'll go more into how to build habits in future slides. But don't make time the enemy. So a lot of times our patients will say, I want to lose 20 pounds by March. Don't put a due date on it. And I know a lot of successful people that have lost over 100 pounds, and they never set a due date, because it can be not beneficial, because then if you don't succeed, then you will feel like a failure. And there's no timeline on your health. Doctors may scare you and say, hey, you need to make this change, or else I'm going to put you on a Lipitor or a metformin or something. And that does, give you that motivation for that due date. However, don't stress yourself to get there. What matters is your day in and day out. And then lastly, see mistakes as lessons. We're bound to make mistakes. We are human, and it's normal, but learn from it. So I usually take the holidays as a good rule of thumb, because when it comes to Thanksgiving, sometimes we overeat, right? And then I say, okay, well, how could you have learned from it, and how would you go into Christmas knowing what you knew about how you reacted to this food situation at Thanksgiving? or birthdays, vacations. Learn from it, grow from it, talk about it with us. We're here, and just improve upon. And even if you make the same mistake twice, it's about understanding where you might be going wrong and thinking it through on how you could make it different. And no guilt either. Don't feel guilty. It's okay. The next is reframe your brain. Again, a lot of times my patients will say, well, I need motivation, right? I'm lacking motivation. Do you think that people that go to the gym at 5 a.m. have motivation every single day? No way. No way. Motivation is actually a luxury. So a lot of times people think they need motivation in order to see action and see results. It's really not the case. It's really the action that we take by setting the goals and being dedicated to those goals that we start to see the results. And then once we start seeing those changes, like weight loss or breathing better, sleeping better, energy, that's what drives you. Feeling amazing is what drives you, right? Obviously, you have your intrinsic and your extrinsic motivators that are important to you, but motivation is a luxury, guys. Start taking the action and dedicate yourself to those habits, and then the results will motivate you. And when you're thinking, all right, what are the habits that I want to create? You need to ask yourself 3 questions. 1, will this fit into my current work and life schedule? 2, will this allow for food and activities I love and enjoy? 3, teach me how to eat and move for the rest of my life. So if you answered no to any of the above, then I would probably say that that program is not worth your time, money, or energy. So we want it to be very realistic. I do understand there are specific circumstances in which we need to go on some form of a really strict jump start, and that is the case for some, but not for most people. So will this actually be realistic? Can I actually enjoy myself on occasions? You might hear us say 80-20. 80% of the time eating well, exercising, drinking water, 20%, maybe having some treats and sweets and stuff like that. And really, can you do this for the rest of your life? Exercises may be able to change, as we get older, depending on everyone's ages, but can we eat this way forever? And if the answer is no, it's really not beneficial to you in the long run. Think about that weight cycle. You don't want to go back to square one. So don't make it harder for yourself. So let's talk about goal setting now. All right. We have a goal. How are we going to do it? And I put a meme in here. It's time to repeat the whole new year, new me thing, but it is true. So SMART goals, right? We always set SMART goals at the end of our nutrition sessions. And what they stand for is specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and timely. So I want to walk more is not a SMART goal, because what does that mean, right? Be specific, be measurable. So an example of this is in the next slide, but I do want to say something about time bound. The date helps us stay focused and motivated, inspiring us to work towards something. In this case, I wouldn't say time bound to set a due date. Like I said, remember, no hard due dates. I would say, when are you going to start this? Are you going to start today? Are you going to start Monday? Are you going to start tonight? When are you going to do it? And what time of day are you going to do the action? So I'm going to go to the gym more. Okay, no, I'm going to go to the gym 3 days a week in the morning, starting next week. That's more specific. So we'll give you some examples. But like I said, intended to focus attention and resources on what is important so that you can be successful. And increase something is a great goal. Make something, improve something. Sometimes reducing something can be helpful, and save something. So each session will typically set 2 to 3 SMART goals, and this will go to feedback to our why and why we want it, and it just allows for continuous reflection. An example of a SMART goal is Susan would like to sleep better at night and control her GERD symptoms. She's consuming 16 fluid ounces of water per day and 36 fluid ounces of coffee. So she's a coffee junkie. That's okay. But she wants to change this about herself, and her next appointment is in 3 weeks. So we would set a goal that hopefully by in time we see her, to increase her water intake to 32 fluid ounces, so double her water intake by next appointment by keeping a reusable water bottle on hand. So that is a very actionable, realistic, and time-bound goal. And also decrease her caffeine consumption in half to 16 fluid ounces by next appointment by consuming more water and cutting off the coffee by 12 o'clock. So that caffeine may be what's keeping her up at night, and the coffee continuously throughout the day may be adding too much acid and could be causing her GERD symptoms to be flared up no matter what she eats. So this is a great goal because it is a 2-for-1. You get more water, you get less coffee, you improve your sleep and your GERD. Boom. Very simple. Another one. John loves his bagels. Who doesn't? But remember that bagels can be anywhere from 3 to 6 slices of bread. And he's consuming one daily at breakfast. His goal is to reduce his A1C, and that's a blood sugar measurement for prediabetes and diabetes, and to lose weight. So his next appointment is in 4 weeks, and he does like Greek yogurt and eggs as breakfast options. So if we were to set a realistic goal with John, we're not going to completely stay away from bagels, but instead the goal is to consume a bagel every other day at breakfast. So maybe 2 to 3 days a week you can have the bagel, but then add in other alternatives like a veggie omelet or Greek yogurt on other mornings by the next appointment. So in this case, we are technically taking away the bagel, but really we're still having that bagel. It's just how often. And then we're actually adding in things like vegetables and fruit and yogurt into his breakfast, which is going to help him actually feel more energized and probably give him maybe even more energy to go to the gym or to do something else. So it's a double whammy there. But again, it's not that crazy. I'm not saying no carbs. I'm saying bagel every other day. Doesn't have to be that crazy to see success. So if you have goals in mind that you've already set for yourself this year and they look like something like this, let's maybe reframe it to something a little bit more realistic. I want to cut carbs in my diet. Okay, what does that mean? I say you cut carbs with a knife. What do you mean? So reframe your thoughts. Say, I want to add more protein and healthy fats to my diet. That way you're adding something and not taking something away. But inherently, you will be reducing your carbohydrate intake if you make more protein and fat on the plate more predominant, or you have more protein-rich snacks instead of carb-rich snacks. So it's the adding necessarily, more necessarily than the taking away. Another one that's very common that people set is, I want to stop eating by a certain time. So in this case, it was 6 p.m. So let's reframe that to say, I want to eat 3 meals and 2 snacks by 8 p.m. That's more realistic. That ensures that you're going to eat enough during the day. That way you're less of a risk of binging at night. And you will actually have the energy to sustain your other goals that you may have. And nobody really loses weight long term by starving. It may seem like it works up front, but we do gain the weight back if we're chronically under eating. So instead of making a cutoff point, you can have somewhat of a rough cutoff point, but instead make sure your goal is to eat enough by that cutoff point, right? Focus on what you're going to eat before it and not the nothing that you're going to eat after. And rule of thumb, we do say just for sleeping and GERD, around 2 to 3 hours before you plan on laying down for bed, trying to eat all of your meals and snacks. And then lastly, I want to quit drinking soda. I think that's great. And I do feel like quitting soda is a great goal. However, some people, it doesn't work to just go cold turkey. So I say, why don't you focus on drinking 64 fluid ounces of water per day? And then you'll be running to the bathroom so much that you won't want to be drinking soda. Just kidding. But it is true. Think about adding water and replacing that soda so that it's not an all or nothing mindset, but inherently you are getting more water and less soda. Or seltzer. Seltzer's fine as well. So these are our reframed goals. Step 2 is making time for ourselves. This is a big one because a lot of our patients are, your first responders, right? You come to the scene, you're there to help, and you're there to take care of others. But there is a time and a place to take care of yourself and make that time for yourself. And a lot of times our routines have changed, maybe since retirement or a new job or COVID or kids in different school systems and timing. So this is an example of a time audit. And it doesn't have to be, this intense, but I do want to show you how time can be audited in your day. So an example of a time audit is we have 168 hours in a week. Let's say we sleep 8 hours a night on a good day. That leaves us with 112 hours left. Let's say we work 5 days a week, 10 hours a day. That's a long shift. That's 50 hours that we're using. That's 62 hours left. Let's say we have 10 hours of commuting between work. That's 52 hours left. Let's say we grocery shop for 3 hours a week. I feel like that's generous. 49 hours left. Then we have our errands that we need to run. That's 31 and a half hours left. We have, 20 hours for family and friends. That's 11 and a half hours left. Let's say we exercise for 2.5 hours a week. That's 9 hours left. That still leaves you with 1.5 hours a day of personal time. So it's how you break up your time. And obviously nothing is as cut and dry as this, but we do waste a lot of time on our phones. I'm very guilty of that. I'm always, wasting time on TikTok. So that's one of my goals for the year is to reduce my screen time. So think about where you maybe could spend your time more wisely and even save yourself time. We are going to talk about meal prep and grocery shopping in the next video, but go grocery shopping on off hours. The Saturday is going to be really crowded. So if you have luxury in your week to go on an off time, that's going to save you time in traffic as well as in checkout. So that's just one example.
But if you are running low on time and you realistically don't have time in the week to go to the grocery store, it's going to be cheaper to do Instacart or one of those delivery services as opposed to buying takeout. And you're going to be more beheld to a list, especially.
True. Yeah. Peapod, Amazon delivery, Stop and Shops. Yeah. Peapod and Instacart. I mean, for the little bit of upcharge, you don't have to go to the grocery store and you're not succumb to any sort of sale or enticed by any sort of bakery item. So that's a good tip, Amanda. I like that. So yeah, just make time for your goals. Fill up your cup, right? Meal prep is definitely a spectrum. Try and lay out your week. Like I said, optimizing screen time. Try and lay things out the night before, right? Make the coffee, prep the night before, set the clothes out for the next day. So the morning isn't so chaotic. Delegate things to other members of your family if possible or your household. Self-care is not selfish. I just had this conversation with someone earlier this week. A lot of times we look at people who go to the gym, eat well, exercise. Maybe you see them as selfish because they're taking time out for themselves. And, maybe some of those people are selfish, but not for those reasons, right? It's selfish to not take care of yourself because how are you going to take care of others if you're not taking proper care of yourself? It's selfish to not be around for your family and friends who need you there or to be your healthiest self. So easier said than done, but think about what makes you happy and fulfills and fill your cup. I know we say too, if not now, then when? And if not you, then who? No one's coming. No one's going to do this for you. You have to make these choices. And whether you're, new to this or you've been at this for a while, there's always room for improvement and always room to check back in with how you're doing and how you're fulfilling yourself. And is this making you happy? Because at the end of the day, our goal is to make you happy and healthy, of course. This is kind of cute. Amanda made a self-care bingo. So I'm going to send everyone the PDF this if you want it. So send me an email if you want this presentation. But it's cool because you can play bingo and try and set, 3 in a row for the week. Have a cup of tea, make a grocery list, have a healthy breakfast, bring water. These are examples of self-care goals that we would love for our patients to be thinking about. And the last thing we're going to get to today with the last few minutes we have is food logging and mindfulness. So why do I want you to log? Not every patient needs to food log, but the benefits are definitely very helpful. Short-term tool for sustained change in diet. It allows for self-accountability. We say it makes the choice more tangible. So having to write things down on a pen or a paper or an app really makes it real versus just a handful here, a handful there. The graze, it really helps helps cut down the amount of food we're consuming, especially if you're a grazer. It allows you to be more mindful and present by having to track your portions, provides understanding and clarity around certain foods. An example being oils, even olive oil is very healthy, and we'll talk about it next week. But olive oil has about 120 calories a tablespoon. So if we are just pouring on the oil when we're cooking or sauteing, that could be leading to weight gain and not really realizing it. Or nut consumption as well. And we'll get more into that as well next week. But it can be helpful to reflect on your progress and goal attainment. Obviously, it'll hopefully facilitate weight loss if that is your goal. But you can food journal and not count calories and not count anything and just jot how you feel that day. If you're looking to eat better and digest things better, it can be helpful for understanding dietary triggers of GERD or IBS, and a connection between one's food choices and how they're feeling. So, like a day where you wrote down that you ate a lot of candy and fried foods, how are you feeling that day? Did something happen? And it allows you to reflect and then learn from it. Remember, mistakes are lessons. Make your mess your message, they say, right? Turn those mistakes into positive things that we can learn from. And detection of food intolerances, like I said. So I printed this. It's a mindful logging example. So this has the day of the week, the meals, and then even if you wanted to have a checkbox for your goals of eating fruit, vegetables, drinking water, all of my eating was conscious and purposeful. That's a big one. And did you exercise today? And did you have any thoughts? So you could print out a bunch of these and use these for the week and then keep a log. Or you could even just make your own journal based on this if you like it. And again, I can send anybody the PDF if they want it. Another example is just a app-based one. There's MyFitnessPal, Chronometer, Lose It. You could take photo albums in your phone if you want. You can write it down like we had just said. And if you're not sure about portioning, you can use the hand method. So a fist is about a cup. A top of fist is about a half a cup. Your palm is anywhere from 3 to 4 ounces. A small handful is your handful scooped. A thumb is about a tablespoon. A fingertip is a teaspoon. So we don't have to measure, but it is good to have a general idea of serving sizes. It can also be really helpful to food journal if you're participating in our nutritional counseling sessions, because we can then look at those journals and it'll really facilitate the session, and we can pinpoint out where things may be going really well, things may be room for improvement. And we even recommend sometimes if people want to use like an app, they could create a login that's just a general WTC Nutrition 123 sort of login, and then we could have access to it and review it prior to your session. So these are all options available to you. Do what works for you. And if you don't want to track, you don't have to. It just can be helpful.
And the main point of logging is it's when Katie talks about mindfulness is that consciousness of what you're eating, that, oh, I know what I ate this week, or I know what I ate today, and what I need, like, am I over calories, just a general estimate of your usual pattern and consistency, where the logging helps to kind of flex that muscle. Just like positivity and mindfulness, you got to constantly reinforce yourself and reinforce it, that when you're logging it, it's that forced moment that you pause and say, do I really want this? Is this something that's going to serve me? Is this something that my future self is going to be proud of me for? Like, what is my future self going to say to my present self? And it's that forced moment to pause and reflect, essentially. That's one of the main reasons that we really, really like the logging.
Yeah. And if you did, let's say you're logging and you already ate it, and that's okay, and you were like, oh, I maybe shouldn't have done that, just carry that through with you until the evening. Maybe make a better choice later in the night. If you had a high carb lunch, maybe do a higher protein dinner. It just allows for you to understand like what your body needs. Like, did I eat a vegetable today? Oh, shoot, I didn't have anything yet. All right, let me have some salad at dinner. It just allows for that concept. And especially when we talk about like nighttime eating, if you can track what you ate during the day, it'll help you make a decision at night whether it's appropriate to eat and what to eat. So just saying.
Katie, well said. And you brought up, guys, that's an exact example of all or nothing mindset of, okay, it's Saturday morning, I had a bacon, egg, and cheese. do I want to mentally take this day and see it as I sabotage myself, or that F it mindset? Or do I
Mhm.
want to take it and say, all right, okay, I did have a bacon, egg, and cheese on Saturday morning, but I can have a nice big healthy salad at lunch with some chicken, and dinner can be, another healthier option. It doesn't mean that the whole day is kaputs.
Right, very true. Don't let it spiral and don't let the mistake become, an issue. And it's not even a mistake to eat a bacon, egg, and cheese. It's not a big deal.
Oh,
It's
heck
just
no.
think about your goals, very, yeah, I agree, Amanda. So I just want to point out, I'm not going to show you guys this, but I did create a brief video, which is available on YouTube and will be available on our website, how to meal plan. So it's step 1 through 5 of how to go from making your meal plan all the way to grocery shopping based on a Mediterranean diet meal pattern. So you can check that out if you want to. Again, please email me for the PDF. This is another example of a food journal that you can lay out. I like it because you could just check off boxes of water, or excuse me, cups of water in the checkbox. And you will see it allows for 3 meals and 2 snacks. Sometimes people think they're not supposed to eat snacks or they're not supposed to eat 3 meals and 2 snacks. I actually typically recommend it for most people, versus large meals or not snacking at all. So just see what works for you. But I like this one and I like the colors. Um, and so where to start? All right, everybody should be super ready for action now. And where do we want to begin? Let's say you want to track your food, take more steps. Maybe you want to get into a lifting routine 2 to 3 days a week if you're able to. Eat more protein, eat more fruits and vegetables, drink water. Okay, that's great. Pick 2 of them. I don't want to see you trying to do all these changes at once. Some you may already be doing. So let's not set a goal to eat more protein if you're already doing that, right? Pick 2 and commit to them for a month. You might not be doing any of these. So pick 2, commit to them for a month, and then add another one each new month. And that's where you're going to really see those changes and you're going to see that motivation to keep going because you're going to see how good you feel and how uncomplicated it is, right? I will, add the asterisks of people do have medical conditions that make it harder to lose weight or exercise or eat certain foods. I get it. I have been doing this for almost 5 years now. I have understanding of that. But a lot of times we jump to the conclusion that something's wrong with us because we're not losing weight and it must be my metabolism or it must be my thyroid when we didn't really take the initial simple steps to make habits. So please consider these steps. If you're looking at the screen now, write down 2 that you want to work on, and we'll take it from there. I want to thank everybody for your participation today. If you're viewing live, thank you so much. If you're viewing as a recording and you have any questions, let me know. But we're going to open it up to Q&A and comments. And keep in mind, I'm going to be sending the invite out for part 2, which is next week on Thursday at 2 o'clock as well. And yeah, that's it. Any questions? Please feel free to email me separately or Amanda, if you do.
Guys, it's kind of, I know it kind of can be confusing sometimes because we're saying it's not all or nothing, but yet we want you guys to be committed. I want you guys to think of us as like coaches more so than dietitians somewhat, in that it's about that athlete mindset of being open-minded, receptive, and also communicative. So in this partnership, in this team between the yourself and your dietitian, it's so important to have that athlete mindset. But just like any athlete, like they're not training all year round 110%. They would burn out and have an injury. And it's kind of similar for us that you don't want to give 110%. And I kind of cringe as I say this every time. And I don't know why. It's silly because it's the former athlete mindset. But it's that you don't want to give 110% for just 3 months and burn out. It's what is realistic. And that's why those goals, they may seem simple, but they're really not. And simplicity in and when it's constant simplicity, that's where you're really going to see the change. So it's sometimes better to do 80% 100% of the time than do 110% and then just burn out.
Yeah, it was like just to wrap it up, like I had somebody, they might even be on this call. They said, I don't want this to be a drop in the pan. You know, I don't want this to be a flash in the pan and then be back to square one in a few months. It has to be long-term realistic things. And you may have other programs that say, all right, go on keto or go on this shake diet and you'll see success. That's great. If you want to do that, go
And
for it,
you know what?
but
You
you
will see
won't find it here.
success, but you won't see it long term.
Yeah, and you know what? There's very few people, but they have done it that where they've seen success long term with that, but they are very, very of different mindsets, and that's okay. But we want you guys to be happy and healthy. We hope you enjoyed it. Please reach out if you have questions, and please email me if you want the PDF so you can get the links to some of those handouts and videos. And hopefully, we'll see you guys next week. And thank you for your time.
Be well, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Happy
Bye.
New Year, everybody. Bye.